First thing that stands out about him.
Go on.
He's like baby De Gea in terms of, oh my God, this team is absolutely leaking shots and this goalkeeper is just about keeping his team in it. He has that. He has the baby De Gea-ness to him.
Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe, that's Jay Motti, and we are joined once again by Carl Anka from The Athletic. Carl, how are you doing, mate?
Overcaffeinated.
Overcaffeinated. Well, it is. You join us as the transfer window is closed, which means for me, the season starts properly now. Things are fossilising.
Yep.
Things are actually in place. This is the teams for the season. We're starting to see, and we can now go forward and look at what Manchester United are actually going to be. We've got loads to get through.
Yep.
We're going to look at the new signings, how they fit into the team, look at what we've seen so far, because we've had 4 games in all competitions, some decent, some truly woeful. And we're also going to be looking at the new transfers, Brian Mbeumo, Lammens or Lammens, as we found out that it is in his sort of pronunciation video. Loads to get through. How it's all fitting together. I'm very, very excited. How are you, Jay?
You know me. I don't want to be, OTT, but I love it when Carl's on. It's just ace.
Yeah, it is great. It is. Oh, we're also going to be talking about Kobbie Mainoo.
Yep.
What happened, why it happened, and what's going to happen going forward. Let's take a breath. Let's roll it back a little
ourselves.
bit. Okay. So let's have a look at the transfer window
Yes.
and how that's going to affect us moving forward. So I want to look at not just the players that we signed, but the players we didn't sign, because there was a piece, and it was in the Athletic, I believe it was even your piece as well, that spoke about where United were looking to spend their money. And there was some discourse over whether United wanted a number 9 or a number 6.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Okay, first things first, this is Laurie's piece. Laurie, you did an amazing, great piece of work the last couple of days, putting this all together. And yeah, he outlines that at a certain point in the transfer window, United reached a juncture, and the question was, and this is very much after Cunha and Mbeumo arrived, because those were the initial targets, but the junction was, do we now go after a number 9 or do we now go after a number 6? Defensive midfielder. I know in England, number 6 is a centre-back, if you're old school, but we'll call that a defensive midfielder. And the decision was made to go after a number 9, and that number 9 eventually became Benjamin Šeško. Great. The comms noise in and around the football club that we got after the window was shut was the approach they had in the lead up to the end of last season and after the Europa League final was, this is a football team that is underpowered up front and needs more goals. And they believe the best way to get more goals was to get superior attacking players that can turn small chances into bigger chances, half chances into goals. That's the viewpoint of the senior executives at Manchester United. Full stop. I want to put an asterisk footnote here and then go down a bit and going, there is another way to improve your goal scoring, which can include strengthening your midfield. They chose not to do that. But that was the viewpoint they went, was we're underpowered up front, let's get better. We're underpowered, we're not scoring enough goals. The best way to improve scoring goals is to get better goal scorers. So Cunha comes in, Mbeumo comes in, and then eventually it's Šeško. How do you feel about that?
It does feel a little bit of a sort of Route 1 fix. It's sort of like, the water, there's something dripping on the floor, let me dry the floor and the problem is fixed. Instead of going, let me look up and see where this drip's coming from.
Yep.
However, I do think that we were underpowered in those areas. I don't think that it was a solely midfield issue, because we've also, we've struggled, we've not bought in midfield or attack particularly well, but this has been a thing since Solskjaer left, the lack of goals. I don't know. I think we need both. Yes. I'm glad since you last came on, the whole Belabour interest came and went.
Sorry, I was on holiday.
So it's good to me that we do know that that's a problem area. I think it's one of them. I'm not sure either. I would maybe toss a coin on how I feel about it. How do you feel about going for a 9 instead of a 6?
I'm just curious. Had we not got Šeško, how would the front three have looked, in your opinion? Would it have been Mbeumo?
It would have been
leading the line.
No, it would have been Mbeumo, Cunha, and one of Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee.
Right.
I think in Laurie's piece it outlines that it feels like Chicago, the US tour, there was an inflection point. You two will have to give me more information on that because I wasn't in the United States. But you could see throughout the US tour, Rasmus Højlund is slowly becoming deprioritized in the squad. I don't think he plays in the last.
We spoke about weird because, how weird this was.
Yeah, because the first game, obviously, against West Ham, and I almost think you can't count that game because in the cold light of day, I think West Ham just didn't really turn up. And what we learned from that game almost became
irrelevant. Is West Ham the one where it's a shot that goes over the crossbar?
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the first minute, he runs through and hits the post.
Yeah.
It's almost a carbon copy of the goal he scored
against Arsenal
in the same stadium. So you're thinking, okay, he's at it, but then, like you say, he hits one over the crossbar from like 10 yards out or whatever it is, and you think, oh God, that's the sort of issues we had with Højlund last season. Then we go to the Bournemouth game, where he technically scores 2 goals. I think they gave one to Ahmad, and I get it, but it hit Højlund on the way in. Okay. So if it actually wasn't a friendly when you're playing by the rules, you'd probably say he scored 2 goals.
Sure.
So you think, okay, well, 2 goals from a striker, regardless of how he scored one of them, that's a good return against the Premier League opposition. And then that's almost that. That's it for him at Manchester United.
Yeah.
I think he came on, didn't he, in one of the games?
Well, he came on against Everton, maybe. Yeah, he did come on against Everton. Sorry, didn't get picked against Fiorentina.
No.
And then didn't get picked
not in the matchday squads.
Yeah,
for long games after this.
It was weird the way it was sort of like, okay, he's had his best game for a while, and that's the end of that. Yeah. So obviously the decision must have already been made.
Again, I'll give territory to you on this in that I wasn't the United States, but it feels like something happened out there. And United have gone, we'd much rather cut our losses on Højlund and try and get a superior striker there.
Because he spoke to the media, didn't he? He came out of one of the mix zones.
It was that game. It was the second game after he scored the 2 goals.
He did a rare thing as well for a player in a mix zone to sort of. He came out almost as though he wasn't meant to be the player. I don't know if he was or not, but said, "Who wants to chat to me?" Which you don't really get.
Well, the thing is, so we'd already.
So you were there. Sorry, I wasn't even there for this one.
We were down there. I think there'd just been a small press conference with Amorim at the same time, which had been happening in there, which was new to me, where the manager's chatting in one room and the players chatting outside another room. And then I think we'd had Dorgu already, or I think it was this way around. I think Dorgu had already come out as the kind of like, here's who you're speaking to today. It's Dorgu. They'll often get guided down by one of them and stuff. And then sort of Højlund just kind of walks out. I don't know whether he'd been told to, whether he'd asked to, or neither. And we're sort of like, who wants to chat to me then? Seemingly quite A, confident after this decent game he's just had, and B, the thing he said was that he wants to stay and he wants to play and he wants to fight for his place. So it's gone from not pushing his way to an interview, because I don't want to be, suggesting things he didn't do, but really keen to chat about his Manchester United future, to I've left and I've never really play again. I've not heard any rumours on why that happened. No
rumour. Anything here is speculation, conjecture, and again, was not in the United States. You will know, you have a greater sense for that feel. Yeah. But from what you're saying, that feels to me as if in that time period in the United States, he's receiving word that perhaps he's not going to be the guy, and him going, no, I'm willing to be striker number 2 or striker number 3 and just stay at United. But United eventually made the decision that, no, actually, you're a flippable asset, shall we say. You're actually more useful to us if you get sold on our bank balance rather than you stay. Again, if you are when you're watching this, if you're in the comment section, please let me know about how you feel about going for a number 9 rather than going for a number 6.
What do you think on the 9-6?
The most important opinion. Come on.
I will shout that Manchester United need to buy central midfielders every single summer until Manchester United have too many central midfielders, because that's just how I'm wired. I think I'll be really honest with you in how I try and look at football. So for the majority of this summer, I have gone out and spoken to coaches, ex-professionals, people who have worked in data departments, and club analysts up and down the football period, and just gone, this is how I look at football. This is how I think football works. Am I making silly mistakes? Am I making silly mistakes when I'm explaining things to people for the readership? Because I want to get better and do things. And I am increasingly going from the best way to... Scoring goals is really, really hard to do.
Right.
And we've got plenty of evidence of a good striker can help a bad team stay in the Premier League, or a good striker can help a okay team win a Champions League. If a good striker catches fire, boom, that's how you can divide moments. But I think over a league campaign, and this is my, this is my personal glasses prescription and how I watch football. I am increasingly looking at football with the glasses, spectacles of how do you get the ball from your penalty area to their penalty area, and how do you keep it there for as long as possible? Because if you can consistently get the ball from the edge of your box to the edge of their box, and you have ways to make sure the ball stays there, eventually the goals will come. And that is the way I'm looking at football more and more and more. Okay. And if I think a team isn't scoring enough goals, my version of how you fix that is going, how are they doing this? And are there ways we can improve this? Whereas United the way we improve this is, what if we just get a better striker? So the 1 or 2 times we do get the ball in the box, it arrives at a better football player who can then just score. We don't need to worry about maintaining the pressure because we just have a player who can just capitalise. I could be wrong. I'm just explaining to you how I look at football, and I think it's also quite good and open to explain how we look at football because, look, we've all been to Old Trafford, we've all stood in the Stretford end, and we can both look at the game of football, and you can probably be looking at a completely different thing on the pitch compared to me. Yeah. But also, when we do that, we should also be quite honest about the fact that you might be looking at the corner flag and I might be looking at the centre circle. But the way I'm looking at it now is this Manchester United team good at getting the ball from their box to the other box, and are they good at keeping it there? And I think they're better at that, of just getting it from point A to point B.
Better at getting it there.
Yeah, they're better at point A to point B. I think Cunha and Mbeumo will improve that massively. Yeah, I think the lack of a central midfielder has me worried about how they keep it there. But I think Šeško is better as a target man than Højlund. So maybe that's the way Amrin's solving that problem of we keep it there because Šeško is just going to wrestle with centre-backs to a superior degree of Højlund. You can see how many times I'm just going around in circles in my own bedroom trying to solve questions. Look, I think Man United have had a chronic problem in midfield and midfield recruitment since Michael Carrick hung up his boots. I think this was a huge reason into why Paul Pogba didn't end up being the football player we all wanted to be or hoped him to be. And I think the lack of a midfield signing critically undermined at least one post-Ferguson manager. And I think the lack of a midfield signing this summer is going to be the biggest difference in finishing, let's say, 8th and possibly challenging for 5th. The midfield signing is a big one for me personally, and the glasses I wear when I'm watching football. You can have a different opinion, and you are totally happy for that. I'm just trying to explain to you my methodology here.
No, I agree, and we've spoken about it so many times, haven't we? And deadline day's just been and gone, the window's shut. But so many times, even since we started this channel, we've sat in this room on deadline day, sort of debating: are we going to get a midfielder? Is it going to actually happen? Is there going to be a surprise midfielder arriving? And invariably, it doesn't.
We seem scared of
midfield. It's just weird. It's because it's always like you just said. Then Solskjaer obviously needed a
Solskjaer.
Like,
I think
he tried his best with
McFred,
but that wasn't the real answer. I know we had some success finishing second and third and getting to finals and stuff, but it didn't quite work. I think we tried it with obviously with Jose, with Matic. Probably wasn't quite right. But it all just feels like we've just tried to sort of shoehorn it. We tried Amrabat, we've tried Ugarte. It's always been an issue, hasn't it? And even now, it still feels like it is.
I think again, through the lens that I'm watching football, which is get it from point A to point B and keep it in point B, your midfielder or your deepest midfielder is so important for that. Michael Cox at The Athletic, the man who concentrates mostly on tactics, wrote a brilliant piece in the 2019-20 season about how a very good way of summing up how every football team plays is just going, what is their defensive midfielder good at? And if you can explain what the defensive midfielder is good at, you can then very quickly just sort of spring out how that team wants to play. Yeah. So let's look at Manchester City. Their defensive midfielder is Rodri.
He's pretty good.
What's he good at? Large space management, passing the ball, long, short distances. And they've got all in one defensive midfielder, so they can play in multiple ways of playing football. And once you start doing that for what's Moises Caicedo good at? Hoovering up large amounts of space, long switch passes, very good recovery pace. Oh wow, they kind of want to play possession football, but also they can do counter-attacking football. And then you look at Manchester United.
We go, who is United's defensive midfielder?
Yeah.
That's not a good starting place either.
You do that, and then you go into like, what's Casemiro good at? And you go, he's good at this, but unfortunately, he's 33 years of age, so he's not as good as he used to be. So therefore, and that sort of wrinkle stuff in there as well. Again, this is just how I look at football. I'm not going to tell you it's right or wrong. I'm just trying to explain to you my prescription at this point in time.
No, I mean, I think that's completely fair.
Just, sorry, go on.
Go on. No, go on.
No, I know we want to talk about the goalkeeper. We want to get to the goalkeeper. But while we're talking about midfield, I don't want to sort of go back and forth with different topics. Kobbie Mainoo.
Let's talk about Mainoo.
Yeah, because obviously didn't start in the first 2 Premier League games.
Doesn't come off the bench against Arsenal. Doesn't come off the bench against Fulham.
Sorry, doesn't get any minutes, let alone start him. You're right. Obviously plays the full game against Grimsby, which I don't know what that really tells you of anything. Then we get reports that he wants a loan move. Where does Kobbie Mainoo fit into Ruben Amorim's plans? Because he did play against Burnley, but only after 2 injuries. So I feel that was tempered slightly. It wasn't like the manager just went, right, you're in.
Yep.
It was Cunha got injured, and then he brought on Xerxes. And then, obviously, something happened with Mason Mount, I think, in the first half. And then Mainoo gets his chance. So I don't really feel like... Some people say, oh, well, it's settled now. It's sorted. It's sorted in the fact he's not going anywhere because his window's shut. But I still don't feel that the question's been answered as to what Kobbie Mainoo's role is in a Ruben Amorim team.
It feels uneasy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, again, you're in the United States. You can... I want your opinion on this because you were there. You saw it more. So watching the extended highlights outside looking in, not in the United States, it felt as if very quickly in that US tour, Amorim starts pairing up his central midfielders. So Bruno plays with Casemiro and Mainoo plays with Ugarte. I don't know when that happened, but
West Ham was Mainoo and Ugarte. I think, was it Bournemouth was Bruno and Casemiro, am I right in thinking? And then Everton was Mainoo and Ugarte again, I think. Forgive me, I'm getting this wrong, but I know that Mainoo and Ugarte against West Ham, fantastic.
Yes.
The issue is that game almost doesn't count
because West Ham was so bad.
I'm not like it's almost like everything you learned from that game you can almost unlearn, because when you went to the Everton game, Ugarte probably had his worst performance in a United shirt. I don't think Mainoo was as bad, but it was not a combination that works in that game.
Okay, so let's start with this first. That Amorim has started to pair up these central midfielders, so it's very unlikely that Mainoo's going to start games next to Bruno Fernandes, and it's unlikely Casemiro is going to start games next to Ugarte, especially now they're not playing in Europe, and that sort of thug fielder combination between Casemiro and Ugarte might not be as necessary. So this pairing, I think Amorim is going for these pairings because essentially you want complementary strengths and complementary weaknesses in your central midfield pairings. Bruno Fernandes he's a number 10, and like a classic number 10, not number 10 in the Amorim way, but he wants to play in the middle of your 4-2-3-1. He is the sun in which all your planets are orbiting, and that's how he's played best for Manchester United. But you drop him deeper into this box-to-box role, and 2 or 3 weaknesses come into light, which is he's not historically been that comfortable when he's passing or receiving under pressure. I think we've spoken before about how when he feels a player on his back, he tries to hook it round or tries to do a flick on because he just wants to get rid. He's got better at this, particularly after the game at Anfield, the 2-2 draw. And that was the first time I went, oh, look, you're not hot potatoing it as much. But his inclination still is to get forward and join those front four, which means Casemiro or your defensive midfielder is going to have to manage that extra space that Bruno is vacating. Casemiro is the better defensive midfielder at managing large areas of space because Ugarte is quite young and still hasn't quite got I remember we talked about front foot defending and back foot defending. Ugarte is a good back foot defender, and when he sees it front foot, he's like, oh, I want that ball. He still hasn't quite read you're getting suckered into a bing bang boom triangle sort of thing. So Casemiro has to play next to Bruno Fernandes because the thing Bruno Fernandes wants to do, the best way to protect against that weakness is to put Casemiro there, not Ugarte.
Yeah.
Tick, great.
Yeah.
You can't put Mainoo there because Mainoo is not that sort of defensive midfielder who can manage large pieces of space, large areas of space. So Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes is just not really a compatible pairing. And also, Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes, if you give me a midfield 2 playing that, I'm your man, and I'm the opposition manager, I'm just like, long balls. We're just going to crack it.
Yeah.
We're just going to crack loads of second balls in them because those two aren't the best in the air. So that means Mainu has to play next to Ugarte, which is tricky because the things Mainu's good at and the things Ugarte's good at aren't necessarily the things Amorim wants from his central midfielders. The central midfielders are really, really important. If to be a Amorim central mid, you've larger, you've got to just be a thug out of possession. And I mean that in a compliment way. You've got to be Simeone-esque, right? you got to be willing to get loads of yellow cards across the season and willing to do things when the referee isn't looking that might have got you a yellow card anyway. You've got to be that sort of very aggressive, out of possession tackler. You've got to be hypermobile. It's quite useful if you're tall and good in the air as well. But also, critically, you've got to be good long passer. You've got to have a switch. And now it's time to get the tactics board out.
Yay. Can we get some pictures of this, please?
Yeah.
Ben, this is what we're here for.
This is the future right here.
So I'm going to name drop my good friend Umir, who's at the BBC as a tactics writer. He wrote a piece about United's defeat to Grimsby, and he explains sort of some of the build-up patterns that Manchester United are playing. And Umir said there are certain build-up patterns that Man United do that once you see them, it's very hard to unsee them because they happen so often. Now, one of the more common build-up patterns you see from United is the bounce pass from your central centre-back. So this is De Ligt. Ball goes from the goalkeeper to De Ligt. De Ligt is going to bounce it to one of your centre-backs. Very often it just goes bing, bing.
First time,
or second time. And you'll see this quite often. Middle centre-back pushes up. Now, I did ask Amorim, I know a lot of people kept wondering why is the middle centre-back always pushing up. I did ask him this quite early in the season, and Amorim said it's to clean the space and to clear the space for the goalkeeper, to give the goalkeeper extra areas to move into. He also believes that the middle centre-back, all the centre-backs now, touch the ball more than your midfielders, so therefore why not have them push up into that space?
Can I ask you something?
Yes,
just
sir.
quickly, so I don't want to distract you. At the weekend, I noticed a lot in the second half. Mainu was like closest to the goalkeeper. Mainu kept receiving that. What do you think was thinking there?
I think he's going against instruction.
Right.
I think he's going.
Mainu kept receiving the ball from Bayern Day.
I think he's going against
that became a thing.
I think he's going against some of Amorim's instruction.
Okay.
But most common one you'll see.
Curious.
Most common one you'll see, and look out for it loads, is goalkeeper at the ball at his feet. Middle centre-back is pushing up, or the middle centre-back is doing something, and it's going to go from the goalkeeper to the middle centre-back, and it's going to go there. Once it goes to your wide centre-back, the idea is, and again, once you see it, oh my goodness, you will not be able to stop unseeing it. It goes, bing, middle centre-back, to your wide centre-back, goes to your central midfielder, who might either pass it back or try and get that very, very quick ball into your... So it goes almost like in a zigzag, so bing, bing, boom. Very quickly.
That one where you're trying to get Mbermo isolated on their fullback or their
and
wide
it can go to the wing back or it can go here.
Yeah.
But this sort of 1-2, bing, bang, boom. I'm very sorry that I'm going to move it very quickly. But yes, the middle centre back whacks it to your wide forward, and then it can either go in almost like a zigzag pattern between these here, and then it very quickly you want to get it into your channel there. Minimal touches on the ball. Head on a swivel from your central midfielder, and if the central midfielder can't do that pattern very, very quickly, can that central midfielder hit it very long into the channels anyway? Just because you want to get into Mbumo, you want to get into Šeško, you want to get into your wing back. Big passes into the channels from your central midfielder is very, very Amorim approved. Mainu, unfortunately, is not a big space player. He's a small space player. He's given ball in tight spaces, he wriggles around, he's very press resistant in that central midfield. This is why we all got really excited about him when he played against Everton at Goodison. This is why we got really excited when he was playing for England. I know you don't care about England.
No, but I did when Kobe Mainoo was playing. I'll be honest with you, that's one of the periods I actually loved England when
and
you burst into that team.
For a long time, particularly on the Ten Hag, we were constantly complaining that United don't really have, this is when you're playing a back four, where what you see from a lot of teams that play with a back four or play a 4-2-3-1, it's very often your defensive midfield who drops in between your two centre-backs to pick up the ball and then redistribute. Maine's very good at, I'm going to pick up the ball, oh look, there's a defender in my back, I'm not going to panic, see ya. Which is great. Those aren't necessarily things Amorim wants, because the person who's picking up the ball and doing that is the middle centre-back, not your midfielders there. So this made things difficult, and this is why when Steve was here and we're talking about Landman, one thing we also talked about was Mainu, and how we haven't seen Mainu have a switch yet and he brought up the training drill that Scholes did with Ferguson's former assistant.
Rennie Merlinstein.
Thank you very much. About how Scholes built up his long switch and his switch passing. I think that's going to be really, really important for Mainu to exist more in an Amorim system.
Right.
I know there's been loads of conversation about his lack of a fifth gear or his athleticism, which I think it's going to be really tough to be a central midfielder in the Amorim 2 and not be rapid. But you can alleviate that if you can pass the ball over those long distances quicker. And the thing with Mainu that we've not seen yet to a Amorim friendly degree is those big passes into those channels for Mbeumo, Cunha and everyone else to hit. I think he can do it. Unfortunately, he doesn't necessarily have the game time to do it now because he's been knocked out of the League Cup.
Yeah.
And he is, unfortunately, as we've just explained there with how the pairings is, if he's going to play next to Ugarte, not next to Fernandes, or he might be unlikely to play next to Casemiro because Fernandes doesn't really get subbed off. I hope that made sense.
No, it does.
I'm very sorry if I did my explanation of that build-up pattern poorly there.
No, I think...
there is a very... First one is goalkeeper to middle centre-back who goes to wide centre-back. And there is one that is more or less a zigzag where it goes bing, bing, boom. Once you see it, keep an eye out for it.
Yeah. You saw glimpses from Mainu with his passing, but I get your point. I see where you're coming from. And it is a shame, but this is where we're at in a minute.
I think it's a crying shame that a very, very talented academy player who is very, very good at some of the things Manchester United have desperately needed for years decided, if only for a couple of days, that the best place for him to play football was at Manchester United.
Yeah, that is sad.
And I know there's been conversation about how he's wanted a very large pay rise on a contract extension, or how perhaps some people think he's throwing his toys out of pram or putting England in the World Cup year above playing for Manchester United. But when I think about Mainu, and I think about how Mainu's career so far has gone, this is a person who's been playing for United since early teens, at the very least. He's playing at a football club that's all been about youth, courage and success. He's playing for a football club that has constantly, and it's up on the walls and it's on the stairs and it's everywhere around in the training ground, if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yeah.
For that messaging to very quickly turn into, you need to wait. That must have been frustrating. And to be told you need to wait for things that are largely outside of your control and not for any sort of failures on your part, I can imagine that might be frustrating. Amorim spoke about Mainu last season, before, and I think Mainu's injuries last season has played an impact into this. I'm also really intrigued to see how he plays football with all this new muscle weight, because Mainu in 2025 compared to Mainu in 2023, it's just like, okay, you've been in the gym, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. I think Amorim, before Mainu got injured for the last time last season, he said, as he very often does in the room, you guys in this room, you will think he's the finished product. He's got a lot to improve on. I do want to ask him, what does he need to improve on? And he's right. And I said this on Talk of Levels the other week, in that particularly with young English players, when they emerge, we can get so enamored with them and the player they might be. I think sometimes we can forget the player they are right now. And Amorim, unlike Ten Hag, unlike Southgate, unlike other coaches, is very much focused on the player Mainu is right now. And the player Mainu is right now isn't really suited to how he wants the central midfield player to work. And that is frustrating if you were a United fan that wants academy players to play as much as possible. It's frustrating to me because I just like the way Mainu plays football.
Yeah.
But I can understand how Amorim has come to this viewpoint of going, actually, you're not going to play as much minutes as everyone might think. I can totally understand why Mainu might have came into this summer going, hang on, why am I not playing this much? And also, why am I not getting more conversation in terms of a contract extension as well? So we'll see. It's 4 games into a season that will have 30, 30-something more matches.
Yeah, at least 35.
Yeah.
At least 35 more games.
I think we've got at
36,
least 37 more. 36 more to
Yeah,
go.
we've got at least one FA Cup game and the other 35 in the league.
And things can change. Look, we're talking right now, and we don't know about the injury status of Mason Mount and Cunha.
Yep.
And I mean, how would you feel about a starting lineup that pushes Fernandes back to left-sided 10, puts Mainu next to Casemiro?
It depends on what it's at the expense of.
So Manchester derby, September 14th. Let's take the starting lineup from the Burnley game, and Cunha's injured, so we just take him out that team.
Yeah.
We put Fernandes left-sided 10.
Yeah.
And let's put in that gap from Fernandes next to Casemiro, let's put Mainu next to Casemiro.
Yeah.
Do you feel okay with that?
Could you have a false nine like we did in the FA Cup final?
Who would you put first line?
Could you use Mbeumo in that role?
Yeah, in theory. I mean, if you have a false nine, I mean, of the false nines you have, I'd recommend Xerxes.
Because I'm just.
I mean, presumably Mount's not going to be playing either. And
yes, because Mount is also in.
Because I think you need Mount for the derby. I think Mount could be a good player in the derby. But if let's say for the sake of this argument, he's injured. So you'd have Mainu and Casemiro, Fernandes and.
You want Mbeumo up front, but you could put Mbeumo there. You could put Xerxes there as your sort of dropping guy, and these two get on their bikes.
Or you could play Sesko.
Or you could play your 64,
70 million quid player.
Well, there's another like there.
But and again, in the comment section, please let me know how you feel about this concept.
I know you've just said I'm sort of contradicting myself. Mount is injured, but if he's not injured, if Mount isn't injured, because Mount does drop deep as well, and he does get stuck in. And I go back to that final, and I know I shouldn't because it's a different team and all the rest of it, but we beat a very good Manchester City team, despite everyone said. Rodri, you mentioned there, who, for me, well, not for me, he's the Ballon d'Or winner. It's not like I'm the only one saying it. One of the best players in the world. Scott McTominay, who's an attacking midfielder, just basically stifled him throughout that entire game. And I think Mount can do something like that where he can drop deep and stick on a midfielder and stifle him a little bit. So I just wonder whether that could work for this.
It's faintly hilarious to me that more than 200 million's been spent, and we've started a new season where once again a lot of the pressing schemes are around Mason Mount.
I've been impressed with Mason Mount this season. I have to say that, even though I love Kobe Mainu.
I mean that with no disrespect to Mason Mount. I mean that as one of the highest compliments. This is why there's a Tifo video on YouTube you can find when he was in the final year of his contract at Chelsea, where I just explained why so many coaches love Mason Mount.
Yeah.
Mason Mount is. Am I allowed to swear on this show?
Of course you are.
Sure. Mason Mount is a good player who defends like he's a shit player.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he does.
Right. He's a good or a tidy attacking player, but he defends as if he's like, oh my god, I'm only in the team for my defensive.
If I don't do this, I'm dropped.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
this is why coaches love him.
And I think fans warm to that as well. As a fan watching him this season, I've been like, I didn't know you.
The only problem with Mason Mount is obviously you could play him deeper, but if you to play him in his preferred position, you have to not play one of your new £60+ million attackers.
Yeah,
so that's going to be an issue. Just on Mainu, before we move on, I've got a couple of questions for you on Mainu. One is, in a world of systems-first football, does it make it harder for him to get minutes under a manager that isn't hugely keen on his skill set? Because I feel like in the past, Sir Alex Ferguson would have found a way to fit him in.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
we would have played to people's strengths rather than finding people who has the strengths that the manager likes. And secondly, is there a midfielder in the world that could go next to him that all of a sudden makes his weaknesses or strengths more palatable for this system?
These are super fun questions.
Thank you.
These are super fun questions. We are in an age of system-orientated managers. You can talk about whether or not those managers are stubborn or elsewhere. I think one thing with Mainu is he's 20.
Yeah.
Right. He's and again he's nowhere near the finished product. We've just spoken loads about it. His long distance passing. I think there's absolutely a world where you can build a very good Manchester United team with him at your heartbeat. I also think you probably will have to. And the answer to your second question is, Casemiro's contract expires next summer, doesn't it? And when we talk about why didn't you buy your midfield signing, why didn't you do this? Well, Casemiro is either your highest paid player or your second highest paid player at Manchester United. His contract comes off your wage bill. There's Harry Maguire's contract expires next summer as well. Harry Maguire's already spoken about the fact how he would quite like that to be extended. So it feels weird that you can almost fast forward to next summer. But there is a version of United now where you've got a team that is built around Onana, Maguire, Casemiro, Fernandes, and next summer where it could be Senne Lammens, your new goalkeeper, De Ligt, instead of Maguire, Mainu, midfielder, the Casemiro successor, and then Fernandes, who knows, because maybe that Saudi Arabia interest maintains after the World Cup. And things could change very, very quickly. I think Mainu's in this really difficult position because he needs to show managers, and I include the national team coach in this as well, that his skill set is worth building around. It's going to be hard to do that when you're playing at a club that is only in 2 competitions this season compared to, let's say, at Chelsea. But I think Mainu's tough and talented and will show that eventually in the next 3 or 4 years. I think, are there midfielders in this planet who you can put next to Mainu and sort of things? Yes, absolutely. So last summer, I did a piece when I did my shopping for Ten Hag, I did shopping for Ten Hag, and it was getting a defensive midfield player to play next to Mainu. And the first draft of that piece was 4,000 words long. And the boss went, "Why do you do this every time, Carl?" And I said, it was really hard to do this because Mainu in particular is such a stretchy football player, because we still hadn't quite decided if Mainu was going to be your defensive midfielder, if he was going to be your box-to-box midfielder, or if 2 or 3 people were saying, "Oh, he needs to play as a number 10 further away." So I tried to explain all that. The draft that went through was half that size. But because his skill set is really stretchy, and I think I was on the show previously, and I said, you can either try and find a sort of all-in-one complete midfielder and then go, there you go, Mainu, that is your bodyguard. You figure out what sort of football player you want to be, thumbs up. Or you can go, Mainu, we've got you a bodyguard. He's not great at long passing. You need to work on your long passing if you want to stay in this team. And I think that might be a juncture or a crossroads, or however you want to describe it, that United will try and approach next summer, where, right now it feels unlikely United will extend Casemiro's contract. And again, it feels as if United won't extend Casemiro's contract, so it feels as if the space or capacity for a big, and I mean big as in 60 million plus, I'm not going to say 100 million plus, for a big midfield signing could happen next summer. And I think in the formulations for which midfielder should we get, there should be, to my mind, heavy consideration on can that player work with Mainu and how that wants to work with Mainu. The good news is there's loads right now in the market, and 2 or 3 of them didn't move this summer to Premier League clubs, which means they should be cheap next year. Yeah.
Obviously, Baleba was mentioned. I know you're an admirer of him and have been. We spoke about him on the show before, but without ever having had those sort of concrete links. I know he's had.
So Baleba was an interesting one in that, but the contact was made between Baleba via intermediaries, which is the my mate fancies your mate version of the world. My mate fancies your mate. Is your mate free on Saturday? And then you go, and then he goes, like, he's not free on Saturday. Oh, okay. So
what about a year on Saturday when he's run out a year?
Exactly. I think that's the sort of. But I think that's the Baleba situation. I also think, as we spoke before, Brighton were probably having a figure similar to the figure they sold Caicedo to Chelsea for, which is 110 million. And United go and pull that face. Pull that face one more time. Yeah. There you go. I think United probably pulled that face after they had spent all that money on Šeško, Cunha, and Buma, and might have gone Aussie next year. So now, will Brighton still quote a similar price after a World Cup? Who knows? Who knows? He will have a year less on his contract. That price might go down. Also, Baleba might play really, really well, and that price might go up. Baleba's not looked great.
I was about to say, the way things are going, we might be getting him for a bargain price. He's
not started the season.
The summer comes around.
The season well, which is I know some Man United fans have said his head looks like he's been turned. But look, he's a Brighton player for now, and we'll address this situation. I mean, the next time you can address the situation is January, but we'll see. Yeah, there does feel like the priority in the next summer window will be midfield. But we've got a lot of football to play between now and then.
Plenty.
In terms of alternatives, Laurie's outlined that United have... I love the way he explained this. He goes, United admire.
Yeah.
So that's not quite a my mate fancies your mate. That's a... I'm like...
That's just eyes across the bar.
That's eyes across the bar. That's
is,
occasionally liking your Instagram story.
Yeah.
So there was admiration for Adam Wharton, which, we spoke about him in the past.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. I think Adam Wharton is the closest thing we have to Michael Carrick in the Premier League right now.
God, I love Michael Carrick so much.
And Wharton, I have reservations about whether Wharton and Mainu can play together.
Right.
I think in terms of large space coverage, that'd be difficult. Wharton and Ugarte kind of make sense.
Right.
In that Wharton will take care of all the passing stuff that Ugarte struggles with. But then also you have that thing about front foot defending versus back foot defending. But then Wharton can kind of, if Ugarte goes after the ball and then he gets done by the triangle, Wharton should have the awareness to just go, I'm just going to stand here. So maybe. I have no idea if that'll work. Who else? Morten Hulmand, who is the central midfielder who was at Sporting under Amorim. Interesting football player. I understand why he would have appeared on your dating app or your Instagram story and you might have hit like. I'm not sure how his skill set would scale up to the Premier League.
Right.
In that he was absolutely the best central midfielder. The way Amorim set up the team at Sporting, the midfielders were primarily picked for their tackling ability, hence Ugarte playing in that team. And then when Hulmand arrived, there was a little bit more passing quality there because Hulmand was the best passer Amorim had worked with up until that point. I do have reservations about whether or not he can kick on and maintain that sort of passing level in the Premier League. I think he's a good football player. I'm not sure he's a... See how I'm pulling all these faces?
Yeah.
So that's probably why it was admiration and not we're going to put a bid in for your former player. There are also loads of other football players that I outlined on Shopping for Amorim previously.
We spoke about a few of them on the last show.
We did indeed.
Check out that full
I
list.
think one player who is super interesting, and I'm just going to say it, and because the window's closed and the aggregates can't get me no. Anderson at Nottingham Forest is really good. I think he's a very, very good all-in-one midfielder. I think he has a really, really broad skill set. It makes total sense to me that Thomas Tuchel was called him up for the England squad. This is also really quite... I think that might be frustrating if you're Mainu in that one of the more available spots or the most sought-after spots in that England team is the midfielder next to Declan Rice. Because Mainu took it from
He
Trent.
works well with Rice, though.
But Mainu took it over the Euros, right? He took it from... Trent was in there for a little bit, Conor Gallagher was in there for a little bit, and then Mainu was like, no. This is my job now because I'm going to be your press-resistant person in lower phases, and that means Declan Rice can push on a little bit. That space is open. And Mainu... Well, you see that, and you go, oh, that's why Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted Declan Rice. And I think that spot, the players who Tuchel and others are looking for that spot, some of them would pair quite nicely with Mainu. Some of them you go, oh wait, that's how I'm looking at a lot of these. So Wharton, right now, to my mind, is in the lead for that, in that leaderboard for the person next to Declan Rice.
Yeah.
And that probably is why United are looking at Wharton or other ways. So yeah, if you're looking at Premier League players or English football players whom United might be looking at, I think a good way or like a good lens you can put is are they being currently linked or paired with Declan Rice in that England setup? Because those are all really good midfielders, as it were. And we spoke before about a bunch of other midfielders who...
You did a pretty comprehensive list, to be
we'll
fair.
put the link to that.
No, it was good, man. It was good.
Well.
You know, there was a sort of wide selection of different players, different prices, different roles. It is interesting. I am relieved that Mainu's sticking around and that at least until January. We don't have to do this again.
Let's talk a bit about Senne Lammens.
Yes.
As I believe that's the correct way to pronounce his name. New goalkeeper.
Yes.
Young, 23, so young but not kind of crazy young, never going to start for the first team young. Comes with a sort of obviously highly rated. You wouldn't buy someone for 20 million as a keeper unless they were highly rated. What type of goalkeeper is he? Do you think he's brought in to be Manchester United's first choice keeper?
Okay, what type of goalkeeper is he? In fact, let me wheel back a little bit. United, all the noise in and around the club about Manchester United was we might want a new goalkeeper this summer, but it would depend on Onana or Bayern leaving. So this was a stretch goal for the window. United, noise in and around the club, everything we heard towards the Europa League final and after the Europa League final was they wanted to bolster that attack so that you get your 2 10s in, and then it was going to be, actually the noise we got was they were going to get the 2 10s in and it was going to be sell to buy, and then we'll see what everything happens next. And it was very much, if Onana or Bayern leaves, then we can go get a goalkeeper. And then it felt for a very pronounced period of that summer that Bayern would be the one who would leave, and they were going to get a better number 2 to push Onana to the very limit of number 1, and then when Onana goes away to AFCON, they'll be your number 1 for however many games. Cameroon, there's no such real thing as a AFCON favourite because AFCON is just delightful in upsets. But if I was a betting man, which I'm not, there is a strong sense Cameroon will make a deep run into AFCON this December. So therefore, Onana will be gone for a while. But then even then, there's no guarantee Onana will get called up because that's a whole
last
thing.
AFCON was
About to say the last one was a complete and utter disaster for him.
So this is most of the noise we're hearing in June, July. United would like a goalkeeper. One of the goalkeepers they currently have has to go, and the goalkeeper is going to be a number 2. And in amongst this, this is why I did a shopping for Amorim thing and looked at goalkeepers. Number 1, I went almost as if I was your online AI assistant. Of you type in, I don't trust Onana, get me a goalkeeper, and I went, okay, well, how about Lunin, the number 2 at Real Madrid? And then he went, I actually don't mind Onana, recommend me a number 2. And I went, how about this Lammens fella? So I recommended him, boom, in that month. First thing that stands out about him, he's like baby De Gea in terms of, oh my God, this team is absolutely leaking shots and this goalkeeper is just about keeping his team in it. He has that, he has the baby De Gea-ness to him. One thing that really impressed me is he's very good at if you play cricket, the long barrier technique. So the bit where you sort of curl your knee in.
Don't look at me like that.
So one knee goes down on the floor, so you've got your whole shin on the ground. One knee, and the other foot almost touches the knee to provide from toe to toe a real long play, so the ball can't roll past you for a four.
Yes. Thank you. I'm glad you explained. Carl, I'll be honest with you.
This is the block.
I've never really been into cricket.
Goalkeepers call this a block. They call it a block. The thing John Stones does when he's blocking a shot.
Right.
When he sort of turns his
one
body.
knee into the calf of your other leg.
So De Gea was very, very good at this. Up until the Russia 2018 World Cup.
I was going to say,
very, very good at
we always talk about this, don't we? We feel like there was almost 3 David De Geas. There was the early De Gea, then there was the
Skinny De Gea, God mode De Gea.
Yeah, God mode De Gea, and then post World Cup De Gea.
Yeah.
And there was 3 different players almost.
So I'd say the way Lammens is saving shots or saved shots for Royal Antwerp last season, we are somewhere between 2013 and 2015 David De Gea. So not God mode yet. I think David De Gea in 2017 is. Mourinho is always saying my finishing second with Man United is my greatest achievement. I'm like, oi, that's De Gea's achievement.
Yeah. he got
he did that. I think that was so if Lammens is 2013-15-ish in some of his styles, so he shoots off his line if it's a one-on-one. Asterisk, sorry.
Yeah.
Right. He shoots off his line when he senses a striker takes a heavy touch, which is very, very good goalkeeping knowledge, right? If you're on a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-1 and the striker takes every touch, there's going to be like 2 or 3 seconds before he catches up with the ball. If I run up now, I can close the gap. He's very good at that. There are questions as to whether or not he's still going to be good at that in the Premier League, where fewer strikers are going to take heavy touches. So there are 2 or 3 times when I'm watching things in the Belgian league, I'm going, that heavy touch is what Hugo Ekitike is not taking a heavy touch there.
Yeah. No.
Or blah, blah, blah. But for what you've seen so far, and the piece I've done on The Athletic is not just me, it's with our goalkeeping consultant, Matt Podrowski. Hi, Matt. He's played the game to a very high level. He knows his goalkeeping stuff. And he says, first things first, shot stopping, very, very good, very athletic, good reflexes, very good timing, good with his legs. One thing that he has that Onana doesn't have is, and again, David Hay used to have as well, you're at the near post, you're shooting, he will just jut out a leg.
If Onana had that, we'd still be in the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first goal against...
The first goal is Onana trying to get down low, whereas...
It rolls, it's like almost touches his little pinky toe as it goes in.
Yeah. Now, Onana's methodology for getting down low has, I think it was a point of tension in one of his previous clubs. One first thing about Onana is just like his build. He's very broad, he's very strong up here, and the way he goes down to ground. When he was younger, I think one of those clubs went, that's bad technique, and Onana was very much, well, no, this is how I do it, and I find it very comfortable. And they sort of rigged him up to one of those mocap machines that the German national team have used all the time, and they sort of timed his reaction times. There you go. That's what they did to measure how quickly he got down to ground. And when he did it back then, which is more than 5 years ago, yes, he was actually quicker than the technique the club wanted him to do.
Okay.
Now, the problem with the more I talk to goalkeepers and former goalkeepers about goalkeeping technique, they very often say, a bit like when you play darts or you play pool or something else with like involving soft touch and wrist and whatnot, is you've got good technique, but there's also what you're comfortable with. And loads of coaches say, if this is your way of getting down low, if this is your way to doing something, if it's not textbook, but it works for you, I'm not going to tell you to stop doing this, because that's what works for you. When Mary Earps was at United's women's team, she explained this as well, of sometimes goalkeepers do things that are bad or look wrong because that's the most comfortable thing for their body, and coaches just go, all right, we're just going to run with it until it becomes a problem. Thing about goalkeeping technique is things can become a problem after you've had a big injury or as you get older. So let's take a goalkeeper like, say, Nick Pope. Nick Pope's had a lot of shoulder problems because he's jumping really big, and he jumps, lands, and he pops his shoulder out. So the way Nick Pope goes to save long shots right now has been working for him for a while, but he's had so many shoulder injuries, he might not be able to do it in the same way, so therefore he might have to change his technique. And I think one thing we're seeing with Andre Onana is, I think the way Andre Onana wants to play football, wants to goalkeep, is not the best way for him to keep doing it at his age now, because he might be slowing down a little bit. We also saw this with David De Gea, where very clearly the way David De Gea was trying to save long shots wasn't working for him post 2018, because he was sort of spilling it back into the back four, and the back four wasn't reacting quickly enough to sweep it. Goalkeeping, really, really confusing. So, what was the question? I'm joking. The question was what Lammens has, and Lammens right now has jutting of the legs in the way that Onana doesn't have, and I think that will be interesting to do. So partly 2013, 2015 David De Gea in terms of his shot stopping. He is good with his feet, so his long passing is good. He's got Bindier.
I was going to say,
he is good. Long passing.
Bindier is a better passer than he looks comfortable on the ball.
Yes.
Like, his actual passing is very good, but when you see him go,
you're right. It's a good point.
So Bindier over long distances, like a real pew, you can ping it in a way that you go and like, wait, Onana used to be able to do this. Why can't he? Yeah. And again, it's a very good example of what confidence or lack of confidence can do. I think Bindier at this point in time has a better reading or a flow for Premier League matches and when to kick it long than Onana has right now. Fine. I think Lammens has a feel for when to kick long and how to kick long. He's right-footed. He's got a good left-footed pass. How he will cope on the pressing attempts of Premier League teams compared to pressing attempts of Belgian teams is another one where you're going, don't know, because just the speed, physical jump is so much bigger there. Now, statistically, this is the new good one. Statistically, Lammens apparently is very, very good at claiming high balls and crosses.
This is what I want to know. This is Carl. I can't cope with any more of these corners. I know there's more to it than that, but just for my own personal sort of peace of mind, this is what is giving me a heart attack every time United concede a corner. Yeah. It doesn't matter whether it's Onana against Grimsby or it's Bayern against Arsenal or Bayern against Burnley. We just seem to be struggling with it. And I'm worried. Is this lad going to be any better?
So statistically, you go in your FB ref, you look at the data. Lammens statistically is apparently one of the best in Europe's top 10 leagues at claiming the ball. You watch the footage, and there's a very, very big sort of compilation hiding on YouTube that I found and that I keep going back to, and I spoke to Matt about this as well, is the eye test suggests he's not as good at claiming the ball as the stats suggest. Right. And again, I think this might be the difference between Belgium and the Premier League and whatnot. So, good thing, I should actually preface this. Matt P, goalkeeping coach, played to a high level as a goalkeeper, and he says it is a lot better to have a goalkeeper that is aggressive in jumping and claiming, because you can hone and finesse that and go, okay, your timing's a little bit off, but here's how I can make your claims better, than it is to have a goalkeeper who just doesn't pop out and claim.
The Gea style, stay on your line.
Now, the season ticket holder, the guys in the Stretford end might say, I can't keep having a goalkeeper jump out and miss. I'd much rather have the guy stay on his line. And the issue about goalkeeping, that the more you talk to goalkeeping coaches and the more you talk to former goalkeepers, is unfortunately in the Premier League, where everyone gets scouted and broken down to death, sometimes a weakness isn't even a weakness at the start, but if they get a sniff or they just start trying it, they'll just keep going again and again and again and again and again and again on you just to see if you fail. So the footage we're seeing across his time at Royal Antwerp, he's proactive, he's aggressive, he's going, Lammens, boom, going for it. And a lot of the time he's getting that ball. There are times where he misses and it can look horrible, but it's not too concerning right now. Can he jump and go and claim it in the Premier League? I cannot say that with confidence, unfortunately. I think the best two goalkeepers in the Premier League at ball in the air going, mine, Emi Martinez at Aston Villa, David Raya at Arsenal. It took time for Emi Martinez to get that good, didn't it?
Yeah.
Took time for David Raya to get that good. I think David Raya is one of those secretly probably a lot higher in the best goalkeepers in the world.
Deceptively good goalkeeper, Raya.
Yeah. If you get a bunch of lads in the pub and go, who's the best 10 goalkeepers in the world? I think people will take a lot longer to get to Raya than he actually is. Unless, of course, you drink with Arsenal fans, which, I mean...
Yeah, they'll put him number one at everything.
Thank you.
We try not to do that.
Yeah, you said that joke, not me. And I think the thing with Lammens is he's going to need to get in the gym.
That's
on the muscles.
I always think things like that, right? Mm-hmm. I quite like.
What, going to the gym?
No, when someone tells me that, when someone says to me, Joshua Zirkzee could do losing a bit of timber, or he could do, I know it's not always accurate, but he could do go to the gym. I think, okay, well that's an easy fixable thing.
Do that.
Like, you're not saying he needs to improve on everything about goalkeeping, then you go, well, just get a different goalkeeper. If it's literally, he could do with bulking up, well, he could do that. He can work with someone and go, let's get you, having a pint of Guinness, whatever it was he used to do with David Beckham when he was 12, and get you on the weights, and you'll bulk up. I don't mind that, because I think that's something that it can be done relatively easily. Whereas if it's not, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
If he's not capable at certain aspects of his game, then it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, what are you going to do with that?
The application is there. The ball in the air and going, mine, and going for it, and getting someone out the way and going for that punch. That awareness is there. Does he have the strength to go, Saliba, get out of the way, I'm going to do this?
Van Dijk, move.
I'm not sure yet, because he's 23. He might need to thicken out.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, mate.
Right, so I know from a good source, you like football, you're a decent footballer, you can score a goal, right? Carl Anka's waiting in the box. Joe Smith's on the wing with his cultured left foot.
Sure.
We're whipping in an inch-perfect cross. Which goalkeeper are you most confident against? Is it Lammens? Is it Onana? Is it Bayern?
Confident of scoring against?
You're beating him in the air, getting the ball in.
Yeah.
At this point in time, I'm most confident about scoring against Andre Onana. But that's a confidence thing.
Okay.
Now that question changes again if it's a corner kick.
All right, if it's a corner kick, Joe Smith taking a corner, you know he's going to drop it right on your head.
Nice in-swinger from the other side.
Sorry, nice in-swinger from the other side.
Thank you.
Carl Anka, you know where it's going. You're picking out Carl Anka. Do you know what I mean? He's there, right there on the edge of that 6.
Now, if it's a corner kick, I think I'm most confident about scoring against Bayern there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
I'm liking this so far.
Now, after the Arsenal game, Joe Hart was on Radio 5 Live, and he was explaining how Bayern could have been stronger in preventing that goal. And he said Bayern needs to be using his left arm to get Saliba out of the way, and he needs to be using his right arm to punch, whereas what Bayern's left arm is just not really doing anything there. Because it's the first game of the Premier League season, it's Manchester United v Arsenal. There are loads of former professional football players at Old Trafford on that day. I spoke to quite a few of them who have won various trophies and played across. This is me not revealing who I spoke to, and won various trophies. And one of them, more than one of them, said this isn't actually one of the ways you address this for United, this sort of corner kick problem, actually has less to do with your goalkeeper and has more to do with the trust between your goalkeeper and your teammates and your defenders, which goes back to something I said on Talk of Devils earlier this week, is when you have a weak, like backing someone isn't just doing what you can to maximise their strength, it's covering their weaknesses. So actually, the way I want to score against Bayern there on this corner, as Joe whips it in, is I'm going, Jay, stand on Bayern there for a bit, because Bayern there is not going to push you out of the way.
Yeah.
And the way you stop that is by Steve standing in front of Bayern. So when you come over to try and impede Bayern, Steve goes, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing here?" "No, mate."
Yeah.
And that way, before the delivery even comes, you go away. Steve eventually goes away when the ball is being whipped in, and it's just me versus Bayern, and therefore my chance of scoring are much less. At least 2 former pros have told me that you need to get someone as a blocker in front of your Man United goalkeeper right now. Because the problem is, like I just said about the weaknesses, is the league now thinks both of your goalkeepers are soft touches on corner kicks.
Yeah.
Is that true? Is that not true? Doesn't matter. All these lads now think you're soft.
Yeah.
So you now need to do something to tell them, don't come here.
Yeah.
If you got a problem with him, you got a problem with one of us, you got a problem with all of us. You need to. Mason Mount's really good at doing this because he's a little lizard. Again, he's very good at being like, "Don't come here, I'll hurt you," without the referee going, "Why is Mason Mount stood there? He's got a nice haircut. He looks like a brilliant son-in-law." I think
he wouldn't do anything nasty.
I think United can solve this set piece problem, corner problem, by one, just getting a better goalkeeper in there, but also longer term, to stop these back post deliveries in particular, you've got to get someone to protect that goalkeeper. What's interesting about this was, after the Arsenal game in the mixed zone, De Ligt was asked about this, and De Ligt said I'm paraphrasing it, so please forgive me, but the feeling was Bayern doesn't feel totally comfortable having a United player there, because he feels like he will have to push past and then he might end up being fouled by his own player. My high-level footballing thing is, get over yourself. He's there to protect you. Start practicing this on the training ground more. I think this is not just a goalkeeping problem. I think this is a set-piece defensive problem in particular. If Arsenal think you're soft and you're a Man United player, you should be incensed by that.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sorry.
No. That's the thing they were accused of for about 20 years.
That's my 90s football fan thing.
I like that. That's a good point.
Thing like popping up. And look, this Arsenal team is not soft. This Arsenal team is a team of giants. But and it's a team of giants, and I really wouldn't want to play striker against them because I don't fancy those two centre-backs. But I think word has gone round the Premier League that you can get at Man United on set pieces at the back post because that goalkeeper doesn't move. And Lammens is going to be more aggressive and going mine and use his arms to get past, but he probably needs more help from the team around him, so you don't get someone pinning him down. The referee's not going to help you. Stop complaining to him.
Yeah.
Back in the day when VAR wasn't around, you know what we used to do? Back in the day when VAR wasn't around, the goalkeepers, more than one goalkeeper, would just spend the entire time with the boot on the back of your legs.
Yeah.
Just scraping the back of that person's legs going, why are you here? I'm just going to keep doing this until you have a bloodied Achilles. Move.
Carl, I know this might be a really stupid question.
No such thing as a stupid question,
I'll ask
my
it
friend.
anyway. Do you think that if Le Mans isn't ready, or even if he is, or the way things have been so far this season, is it not worth, or does it get to the point where it's worth having... Well, there's that. That's another point that a lot of people in the Stretford end were talking about on Saturday, to be fair, was, especially after Burnley's second goal went in, was why isn't Tom Eaton playing? Also, Harry Maguire clears a lot out of the area. Is it not worth starting him if you're getting to the point where you're just struggling on set pieces?
It's a very, very good point. I think set pieces and aerial dominance is a reason why certain players are playing more. I think Casemiro is going to play more games than quite a few United fans would like, because Casemiro is a very good set piece threat in both boxes. And I think, I know Amorim has also mentioned perhaps playing Mason Mount as one of your middle two. I have reservations about that, because Mason Mount is more of a lover than a fighter when it comes in the air. He jumps a lot. He doesn't really win enough. And second balls are becoming more and more important in the Premier League as more and more teams are trying to do this Bundesliga-esque win the ball and just score within 4 seconds thing. To go back to our massive original question about Le Mans, he save shots a little bit like baby David De Gea. His cross-claiming, he attempts loads, but sometimes he can overexert himself and leave gaps. I think you can alleviate that by having people to help him, and also just give him blockers and conversation there. Decent with his feet. Need to see how that will do in terms of how that will scale to the pressure. Increased intensity and pressing attempts. All over my words here. I'm knackered from yesterday. I think he was initially envisaged to be a number 2 to go ahead of Bindier and push Onana to the very limit, and also to take over when AFCON comes. I don't think Le Mans will be thrown in the deep end for the Manchester derby. However, if Bindier and Onana are both in this sort of funk, Le Mans could be an option before AFCON arrives. I think Le Mans will eventually be the number 1, but I can't tell if he's going to do it by age 24 or by age 27.
Yeah.
With the set piece thing, I think Amorim's starting to become a little bit obsessed with set pieces. I think he's talking about them more and more and more, and I think that he maybe, obviously I'm sure there's loads of things he's learned since he got to the Premier League, but it feels like one of the things he's publicly willing to talk about in terms of this is really important in the Premier League is set pieces. And you would assume that he's, obviously at the other end of the pitch, we've scored a number of goals from set pieces already this season, and at the defensive end of the pitch you would hope his sort of fascination and obsession, what I'm calling that, would extend to trying to fix this. And do you think that we've just gone for a keeper that the numbers say is excellent, like almost like the goal scoring thing back to the start, where we don't score enough goals, let's get a striker. We concede too many from set pieces, let's get a goalkeeper that's better at claiming it.
Maybe, perhaps. United's formulations and how they problem solve. I've been I think this is my 5th full-time season covering Manchester United. I did at least one of them behind closed doors. And I am now getting to the point where stuff makes sense to me, even if I still don't think it makes sense. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but I know how you came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And perhaps it was just beep, boop, beep, who's a goalkeeper really good at saving shots and claims, and he goes, and Le Mans comes up top, because that's what it is. I do think set pieces and United's approach to set pieces is really interesting. If only because, and I'm sure that you in the comment section, if you're a United season ticket holder, if you're in the Stretford end, you will have noticed when it comes to set piece time, Amorim goes out of the dugout and then Carlos Fernandes takes over. They always do that big switcheroo. And Carlos Fernandes is in charge. Carlos Fernandes is I want to say he's 30, he might be 31 now. Very, very young assistant manager. When I was at St James's Park April this year, in a game where it was very clear United were like, we'll take our lumps and we'll go play Lyon in the second leg. Don't worry about this. Yeah.
We're done. We've had enough.
Bury me softly, brother. So
it was really bad.
It was not great. There was a set piece that happened there, and the press box in St James Park is quite right behind it, and I watch Amorim it's a defensive set piece, and Amorim's like, okay, and he's like, Carlos, you're up. Carlos comes out and he spends the entire Newcastle preparation just talking to Bruno Fernandes about what he wants. He's like, you sort of get this guy to do this, and you're going, shouldn't you sort this out?
Yeah, we should have known this, shouldn't we?
Yeah. United have a very, very young head coach. I mean, he's only just turned 40. He's very young. I can't say very young because Herzl is here. They have a young head coach. They also have a very young assistant manager collection, and one of them is in charge of set pieces. And I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know for a fact that Amorim took time to understand how strong the bottom half of the table is, and I think last season was also a bit of a humbling. Oh, good, you English lads really take this set pieces and second ball stuff seriously. One thing I have noted already in this couple of games that has been an improvement in the attacking set pieces at least is Mbeumo takes the in-swing corners on the right hand side, so he's taken over from Bruno Fernandes and Luke Shaw because he's left-footed. And one thing they are now doing is the sort of Maguire orbit and the Casemiro orbit has just been decreased, and you're seeing more in-swings on the left being aimed towards Lenny Yoro. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lenny Yoro finishes the season with 5 goals.
That'd be nice.
Would be nice.
Gets his head on a lot, doesn't he, Lenny Yoro?
Just finally then, you sort of alluded to it there in terms of set pieces. This season, obviously results-wise, 4 points from 3 games is average to not great. Losing to Grimsby is disastrous, utterly just, unmitigated disaster.
Even though they cheated, Joe.
Even though they cheated, they had a player that shouldn't have been there.
Anyone could beat anyone if you just play players that are not allowed.
Yeah, just put, Mbappe in or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean.
Oder, right? Are you seeing some signs that we're improving? Because that is what Amorim simply must show this season.
I'm going to be so cheeky here. Yes, I am seeing some signs. Yes. The key word in that sentence is some. Oh. And I think this is the fun/annoying bit about being a Man United fan, and also being a Man United fan in the age of Twitter and the age of social media discourse, is that quite often we're not actually disagreeing. We're just arguing over the level. So, are United going to be better than they are last season? Yeah. Is it going to be enough to get them in the Champions League? Probably not. Is it enough to get them in the top half? Yeah. Is that more to do with United being good, or to do with United's rivals being poor? So that the 1-1 draw against Fulham actually wasn't that bad a weekend for Man United, because Villa didn't pull up any trees. Newcastle aren't pulling up any trees. And I think this is before a ball was kicked, I thought Manchester United would finish 8th. And that means Man United are going to draw a lot of games and have a lot of performances I'm going to find annoying. And they're going to lose some games in a way that I'm going to find aggravating. And I'm trying not to crash out about this, in that an 8th place finish is an improvement on what happened last season, and probably an improvement on what happened on the Ten Hag. But it also means you are going to have a lot of results where you're like, left money on the table there, didn't we? And hold me to this, comment section, hold me to this if you see it, in that I'm going to try not to crash out and prang out as much around full time. I try very, very hard to not let a bad United result ruin my weekend, if only because I need to keep clear so I can type up everything that happened. But I think there's going to be 2 or 3 results this season that are just going to be frustrating, because better United, or like a United you think going to finish 4th or 5th, would have won or avoided defeat. But this current United, I think we'll leave money on the table there. I also think right now one of the real difficulties, a lot of people in United media, and I include myself in this, I include people on Sky Sports, I even include Paddock, is that we are, whether we want to admit or not, we are talking to 2 crowds of Manchester United fans at the same time. There are the Manchester United fans who are treating this, what happened against Grimsby, what happened against Fulham, as match 3 or match 4 of a brand new season. And they're going, do not panic, things are going to improve. And there's also the Man United fans in group this one going, this is month 10 of Amorim. Now, if and to try and talk to both at the same time, it's really hard, if only because I've got a word count. But you've got it. So, drawing to Fulham in your second Premier League game of the season is a bit annoying. And the fact that you didn't really look like scoring goals for a while is a bit annoying, but okay, fine, it's Fulham. You can get past it. That's, if it's that. If this is month 10 of Amorim, you're going, what do you mean we've not beaten Fulham? We always beat Fulham. We've been beating Fulham since 2010. And I think this is the noise we're getting quite now. And I think if you are in, this is just match day, this is just the fourth match or the fifth match, please be very clear that that's the glasses you're wearing before you start the conversation. And if you're the person that is, this is month 10, please be very clear and preface it that way, because you will just save yourself a lot more ag.
Yeah. It's hard. You can't please everyone, and at the moment, no one is completely pleased.
No.
But I'm trying to be positive.
I think in terms of match day 4, this is match day 4, fourth game, fifth game, this is the beginnings of a brand new season, and things will improve because Šeško's not fully match fit. We'll see more of Šeško soon. The goalkeeper situation needs to be resolved. Great. I think Patrick Dorgu has immediately looked a lot better by playing next to Cunha, because Cunha's just a lot better at spotting that overlapping run and giving it to him compared to, say, Garnacho. So those are good things. But if it's this is month 10, you're like, it's still not good enough. There's not good enough improvement for 10. So look, I think both. Again, look, some people wear reading glasses, some people are short-sighted, which means a person holding a whiteboard with a thing, you can read that 2 different ways. It's fine. I think it's just the case of just being really open and honest about how you are viewing football right now. And that way you can avoid and end up the situation where like one's talking cat and one's talking dog to each other.
Calm.
It's amazing.
It's been an absolute pleasure as always.
It's such a great point about the sort of, it's difficult to argue with either point, and sort of I get it. I do get both sides of the argument. And Carl could have sat here for another 75 minutes, man. It's just flown.
I know it's gone by. Honestly.
And I'm like, at some point this has to end.
Yeah.
It's horrible that we do have to. And
thanks for having me. I'm sorry if I've rambled. No. A bit.
It's fantastic.
Man United are really confusing to talk about, so very often I have to do that. Before I explain this, I have to try and explain this.
You break it down.
I will try and get better.
Well.
Also, please forgive me. I'm incredibly sleep deprived after deadline day.
No, don't apologise, man. That is absolutely class, and you explain it so well that even people like me understand it.
Yeah. And we'll hopefully be able to get you on in a month or so to look at the next chunk of Amorim's 11th month or Amorim's second month. However, people are looking at it, and we can have a bit more of an assessment of where Manchester United are at. But thank you always for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for explaining some of the stuff you saw out in US tour as well, because I wasn't there, and that sort of the stuff you explained about Holland. That's stuff that not everyone's going to know, even other journalists who didn't go over to the United States. So
it was
credit to Paddock.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you can check out Carl as well on Talk of the Devils. There's a link in the description. And obviously at The Athletic, loads of great articles out there, including all the articles with reference. There's a link in the description for them as well.
Of course. Cheers, Carl. As always, thanks for coming on. Thank you, Jay, for coming on as well. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us at home. Hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you in a bit.